Hello, everybody. Sorry about the technical difficulties on my side during our business meeting, if you were participating in that. Turns out that when you have multiple browsers open and you've logged into AirMeet on multiple sessions, you get a little feedback. Go figure. So there's been a slight change with our presentation here. One of my presenters is unable to be here, and that is Ron Cohn from Kennewick School District. So Madra and I are going to be getting this started here in about 1 minute. Just going to let people kind of get settled in, and then as soon as we get going here, we will walk through things and take some questions and go from there. Okay, Madra, we're just coming up on the 1:15 mark.
Yeah.
And get a couple more people minutes here or seconds here to get signed in.
Yeah, looks like a great group already.
Yep, we got over 30 people there. So, and I see some smiling faces there in those photos. Some I know and some I don't. So.
And I apologize.
All right.
See my smiling face, but I can't figure out my video camera here, but I am smiling, so, and I appreciate everyone joining us.
Sure. Well, that's all right. Okay, everybody. My name is Mark Benstrom. If you don't know me, I'm Chief Technology Officer for Highline Public Schools up in Burien, Washington. And I have today with me Madra. Madra is my contact for Learn Platform. We were also going to have Ron Cohn from Kennewick School District, but unfortunately Ron had a family emergency and had to step away. So Madra and I are going to do this together. We're going to address some of the things that Ron was going to talk about. I'm comfortable doing that as well as Madra because Madra's from Learn Platform and we use Learn Platform at Highline Public Schools. I also have one of my staff members I see in the session, Becky Mesker. So I may actually call upon her if I have any questions, and she might be able to step up and be able to talk a little bit. She's actually been very instrumental in our deployment of Learn Platform. So Madra, why don't you give us just a little background about what Learn Platform is from the 50,000-foot view, and then we can go into there. All right.
Yeah. Learn Platform is an EdTech management program. Helps you keep track of the usage of your EdTech, helps you build visibility into what programs are approved and not approved for your teachers and for your community. And also can help you streamline your processes for vetting with new programs, with privacy and policies, just trying to bring in and rein in some of the chaos that we've seen this year, especially with the influx of EdTech program usage. I'm on the customer success team at Learn Platform, so my main role is to support long-term goals of Learn Platform, answer questions, share best practices. I've enjoyed working with Highline, and I'm excited to kind of walk you through some of the examples of success and how it's being used at Highline today. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, all right. So Madra, let's go ahead and get started. And we're going to go through the slides that are really related to Ron here, but Madra and I both know how that works, and we'll go through that.
Yeah. So the basis of Learn Platform helps to build and customize your own public district library, both for the community side, which is what we're seeing here, as well as the teachers. So if there's any question of what EdTech tools have been approved for use and at what grade level, This is the public library that you can either share on your website or share with parents who have questions about it. It also allows you to upload your own supplemental materials, anything additional that you want to share about that product. So there is a bit of customization that's allowed for these library views.
I think one thing for people to understand about the library, and this is really I think this will help you to understand the product as a whole. Learn Platform is a resource that allows you to basically review all of your applications, keep them in a one-stop shop for your people to come to, and it's a vetting tool that we use at Highline. Becky and Megan and a few others, they actually go through here and they're putting in resources and information related to those resources. And if a product can be in various states, it could be pending, it could be approved, it could be conditional, like you're saying, it could be public input requested, all kinds of different feedback areas. But also what it is a communication tool to the end user. So as the end user puts in their request, we get a notification that a new application has been asked to be reviewed. And then we put our team into there to go through and review that. We look at the student data privacy agreements. We look at all kinds of different things. And we make sure it's aligned to our curriculum. We have what we call our guaranteed viable curriculum. And I know that Kennewick does something very similar where you're wanting to make sure that it's tied to the curriculum adoption. So Madra, you want to continue?
Yeah, this is the teacher view or the district library view, whereas before we were looking at the public view. There's more information available to teachers from this district library, more details about the products. What we have been seeing this year is districts customizing the resources that are attached to these tools. So whether it's examples of PD, sometimes teachers who are seeing success with the program will share lesson examples or ways that they've adapted it into their own day-to-day classroom routines. And I think what's really important is it is a one-stop shop, but it's also very customizable. So all the statuses of products and the filters and the way that you tag products can be customized to your own district goals and the way that you want your teachers to sort and manage these products.
Yeah, so I'm going to take you through the next step, but I've invited Becky up
Hi, Becky.
to be available, and she can respond where I might be leading you astray. This is totally off the cuff because Becky was not prepared to join us. But you know what? This is an opportunity to show you the flexibility of not only this tool, but our process. Having somebody who actually works in this tool on almost a daily basis. Becky can share a little bit. Becky, why don't you tell them what your role is at Highline and just give them a quick overview of your role and Megan's role with the digital tool process team. And as we go through this, I want you to interject whenever you feel like there's important comments to be made.
Great to see you, Becky.
Hi, Madra. Yeah, no problem. I know originally I wasn't going to be able to make it, but here I am. Yeah, so I'm the project manager of IT at Highline. I work closely with the teaching and learning teams. I can't think of their actual role title, but it's very similar to a Tech-TOSA, right, that a lot of schools have. We use a different term for that at Highline. So it's our way of trying to bridge the teaching and learning and tech side and get more communication going. So we work really closely on digital tools, evaluations, and using Learn Platform. And yeah, it's been a great way to try to engage teachers. I know, teachers are so busy, they don't have a time to vet tools, or they just want to use a tool and go with it. And this has really kind of been a channel for us to really pull them into the conversations, to start giving more information on data privacy. And, you know, I think what we were going to call it originally when we were planning this was the wild, wild west of digital tools, right? And the Learn platform kind of helped us rein in some of that when we started really digging into, okay, what tools are being used in the district, what's the security, and being more mindful around those pieces.
Okay. Madra, can you take us to the next one?
Yeah.
I think the big thing that you need to, that we follow, I'm going to state this. We follow a very prescribed process with our curriculum, and I'm sure every other district does as well. And so what I'm going to talk about here is probably nothing new, but we use what we call our guaranteed and viable curriculum. So our teaching and learning department, managed underneath our chief academic officer, who I'm a peer of at cabinet, that team has developed a set of content that our teachers use. And there's a framework that goes with all of that content and all that curriculum that gets delivered. And the aspect of how that ties back into this is we don't just allow the teachers to go on the web and get a application that might be used to, in many ways, teach a concept, because there's the potential that the concept that is being taught through that application may not align with our curriculum. And if it doesn't align with the curriculum, what we've now created is an incongruence in the education for that student. And we don't want that student to not understand the content, not have the capacity to be able to continue down that path. So we're very deliberate about that process and going through there. So we first look at that. We then, Becky will engage people on our team to look at the technology and the security. We'll actually look at the tool. In many cases, we will be talking with the vendors to find out what's the setup in the background. We want to make sure that we understand their security. We also look at whether or not it can be archived and whether or not there's content retention, because we believe that there are state and federal requirements for that information, and we want to make sure that we have that always available to us. But the other thing is we have a intellectual property agreement that we use in the school district. And that means if we deploy something and we're going to use that product, we deploy it with the understanding that that product now is using Highline specific information. And because of that, the vendor can't use that information in any of their ways that they would for advertising, for marketing, for setting up other, like test schools within their product that they typically will use when they come to show other people, because we don't want our security or content to be compromised in that way. So we use this really to get that strong clarity of approved digital tools. And we have a committee that we call the Digital Tools Review Team. And it's comprised of people from teaching and learning, communications, and technology services, of which there are subsets of people on side there that also operate in different capacities. Parents, because we have kids in the system. And the staff may also be working directly with another school, so they have the opportunity to get school feedback. And so Megan and Haley are what we call personalized learning coaches. Those PLCs, those coaches, they work with the schools, they deploy these tools out into the school and make sure that the school truly understands that information. So, Madra, can you take us to the next slide? Our current environment here is we consolidate all this information to vet it. We really use this tool to vet it. And if things go well, I'm actually going to walk you through that, or I might even have Becky walk you through, and I'll drive the tool. And that way we can show you what we actually do. But there's a great toolkit that we call it within here where we can add in our own information. We communicate approved, conditional, denial. We want to make sure that the end user understands why. So part of this process is to make sure that we get it in there. I will tell you that due to COVID, our requests ramped up severely. At some points in time, I think we were getting probably, I would say 15 to 20 a day requests. And that is overwhelming. Go ahead and click the next one. So, Audra, you want to go ahead and drop off your session. I'm going to try and do a view here. So we'll see how things go. Becky, you're going to be my co-pilot here?
Sounds good.
All right. Let me get my screen going here. And this one. Okay. Does everybody see the Highline Staff Hub?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, so Staff Hub is basically a location where you all can actually get to it. If you go to highlineschools.org and you click on Staff, and it'll take you to Staff Hub. Once you get to Staff Hub, that's about the limit of where you're going to be able to get. But you can at least see some of the structure of what we have. So this is our digital tools page, and we take everybody here. We're going to get into this library of tools here in a second, but I want to go through the other items. So Becky, can you talk about how you use contracts and what you look for, and then we'll go down and look at the review process?
Yeah, definitely. So another key piece of this is the Student Data Privacy Consortium, which is at 4 o'clock. I recommend you joining. And that really helps guide us to knowing the specific data points we need to comb for. And then we have our own vetting as well. So we go through and look for key pieces around data privacy, such as, I'm trying to think, I should have given you my checklist that I do. But basically I put together a checklist and I go through, is there location tracking, because that we need to protect students' privacy. Is there, I'm trying to think of all the other components I look at. Are there ad trackers? We don't like having ads advertised to students, but as long as they're not tracking or collecting data to create an identity from students, that's something that we look at. And so we go through all these components, and we also look at ADA compliance as well, because that's really becoming more and more out there, right? Now that we have all these digital tools, we need to have an equal, equitable access. And so ADA is a big one too. And that's what the power of, I'm kind of sidetracking, but that's the power of the consortium, because when we're all asking for the same things, vendors have to comply. And so we have power in numbers, and that's been really critical, I think, in pushing vendors to really think about student data privacy much more robustly than they have in the past. And so I go through my checklist on the technical component and make sure our systems can run the program and those different things. Like Mark said, I'll funnel that out to certain techs. I'm just a project manager. My background's in teaching, so I don't know all the hardware sometimes, and I pull them in as needed. And then our communications teams review any social media requests, and our teaching and learning review components in terms of curriculum alignment and equity. So we each kind of have our own checklist that we go through, and then we meet together and decide how are we gonna enable this tool? Because sometimes we'll approve them conditionally, only staff access in order to share in class, things like that. So that's a really quick overview of what we do, but that essentially gives you an idea of the process. And in what Mark's going through as well, it shows the different approvals and why and how we define them. So it's really clear to teaching staff why, if we have to deny a tool, we have legitimate reasons for it. We're not just trying to be jerks and block them from using cool tools, right? And we'll even say to them, hey, why don't you also reach out to the vendor and put pressure on, say we need them to meet these components, and then we can use it. So again, that power numbers to get these vendors to really think about, okay, a student's using my tool, I have a responsibility of that, right? So I think really having the key descriptions was really important in order to get buy-in and understanding from teachers to get them to start submitting requests instead of just, going rogue and using tools. But that makes sense. Everybody needs to have justification. So that was huge. And that was something that the teaching and learning team really streamlined with our support. Yeah. Does that kind of answer it, Mark?
It does.
Cool.
It does. And I think the other thing that people need to really be aware of is we're very conscious that student information is always highly sought after. So when we present a new product out to the schools, we're doing everything we can to make sure that that product is following the consortium guidelines as well as possible. We get Exhibit E's signed by many different people, and we have all these different areas. So sorry, I'm going to go back up to the top. These are frequently asked questions. Why is a tool denied? Why is it conditional? What does that mean? Why is this website blocked? We actually have, contrary to what you might hear me say on ACPE through the listserv sometimes, everything is open. Everything is open except for when we get into tools that are used instructionally that may not be aligned to our curriculum. So we actually have a lot of vendor tools blocked because it has to go through this review process. So let me hit the reviewed and approved support status, and you can kind of see some of this. So you see approved, and there's two different kinds here, approved and supported and approved. We have different classifications, and the reason we use both approved and supported and approved is if it's supported, it's been adopted by the teaching and learning department. They then are using that as a key component inside the guaranteed and viable curriculum. However, there may be approved subset software, packages, whatever, that do teach the content well, but they're just not purchased by or supported by teaching and learning. It also means it's probably not across the district. It might be one or two schools who are using that. And then we have our conditional. Conditional is typically used when we're doing a lot of our pilots. We will approve and vet it for certain use, and we'll allow that to be run through. And then pending, it's just in the status of where Becky and Megan and others are going through everything, and it's not been approved completely. Denied typically is straight up denied. It is denied for a reason. It doesn't meet archiving. It's not FERPA compliant or COPPA. Maybe it doesn't align with what we do in the district, or maybe we have a subset of 5 other tools that do the same thing and the teacher didn't know about it, and we funnel them back to that. Lately, we've been getting some of these denied vendor unresponsive, and I'll tell you why. It's typically because of the student data privacy agreements. The vendors are starting to push back a little bit. And then we have, our instructional capacities, our equity. We use our equity lens. And Becky, can you talk a little bit about the equity lens?
Sure. The equity lens was a series of questions developed by our committee on equity that the district started a few years ago. We actually have a board policy called Policy 5000 about equity to make sure it's embedded in everything that we do. So when it comes to digital tools, especially if it's a part of a curriculum tool that we know is going to be used district-wide, we use that lens to help guide us to determine if the tool is equitable. And so what that means is similar to the ADA accessibility, but also, is there representation in this tool? Does the AI target and give suggestions based off of interest, not just what might be good for the student, right? Because that's a huge component too. To really make sure that we're providing tools that are going to reach our huge diverse group of students. So that's really important to us. It's something we've been embedding the last probably 2 years that we've been doing this now to make sure that there's representation, that all those different things that are easy to look past but have a big impact on students. And so that checklist reminds us to go through the tools and check for that before we approve them. Again, we mainly do that for tools that are district-wide. At least that's how we started. And now we're starting to look at just all tools we're reviewing with the equity lens.
Okay, so right now on that page, on the Highline page, this library tools, actually takes us out to Learn Platform. So I'm going to just kind of give you a one-stop look here. You might be thinking about this in terms of, I don't know, is the size okay, or do I need to increase the size?
I think it's a little small.
All right, let me go ahead and bump that up. I'm on a very large screen, so it looks good to me, but I can understand size. So within here, I can actually search for a product. So let's say I'm looking for IXL. And now it pulled it up and it said it's reviewed and denied. If I want to, I can go in here and click on the details, and I can find out why it was denied and what else is in there. So here's the denied information. It does not meet our requirements in Department of Technology Service, does not support the rigor expected in our guaranteed and viable curriculum, and teachers are encouraged to maximize the use of core instructional materials and approved tools, and that being iReady and core math instruction materials. So that's the reason why IXL is not approved. Now, if I wanted to go back and look at one of those, so I'll go back to just our library here.
And one thing to add too, we always allow. Oops.
Go ahead.
Yeah, even if a tool is listed as reviewed and denied, Learn Platform, we are still able to set it so they can re-request it, which really is nice for us, because if teachers really want a tool and maybe there's a privacy issue, once that changes, they'll re-request it, and so we can, oh great, they updated their privacy to meet our expectations. And so then we don't have to go back and constantly re-review. It's on kind of the user's end. If they really want it, they can re-request it and define, you know, what's changed for us to reconsider it for that.
Right. And so when you look at here, now you can see all the different statuses that we have. You know, the reviewed and denied, approved for use, approved and supported, conditional, pending. All of these are inside here. And you get down into all the different tools that we have, and you can see that. Well, at the top of the screen, we have the capacity for the teachers when they come in here to basically say, I want to look for all the approved and supported. And when I apply that, the only thing that I'm going to see is the approved and supported products. And then I can go down into the grade levels if I really want to get into the grade levels. So let's say, what's a, see if Doc Help comes up. No. We'll do DocuSign. Becky, do you have any tools that might be in a weird state? Oh, you know what? I got to take that conditional.
Oh, good. I know. I was like, why is that happening? There you go.
Okay, so I looked up DocuSign, and here it says there are 3 or more products that are inside there. So I hit the show results, and now I see those 3 results. If you note, there is no icon of color down on the bottom of these with words in it. So that means that it has not been run through our review process yet. So if I wanted to look at this and say it's e-signature, what I can do is I can come in here and I can click request. And now from the request, I can go through and I can say, yep, it's Highline Public Schools. And now I can go through and I can say, I want this for the district office. I can say a school if I want. You know, I get the option to fill this out and to make it work. And so, yes, principal has reviewed it. We specifically require them to respond that the principal is aware that they have a request coming through. And has the digital review team, have you reviewed this tool, or has it been reviewed by the team before? And so it'll go through that process. And when it's done, then it goes into the workflow that Becky is actually working on. Let me go ahead and go back here. So with all of these, when you hover over top of them, you get that details page. We're not fully deployed in terms of doing the grading and comparing, but we use details and we use requests. But if you look at the grade, we do have the capacity to go in here and use the grading component. And this is used not only from Highline, but this crosses into other communities so that we can see some of the feature sets and the grades that might be applied by others. Okay, so Madra, I'm going to have you go back to showing yours. So I'm going to end this one. I'm going to have you bring up the slides.
Yeah, on your way. Tell me when it shows on your screen.
All right. Yep, got it on the screen.
Awesome.
Okay, so as we stated here, you go to our our staff hub, and you click on digital tools, and it'll bring you to this page. And then these are those considerations again. Go ahead and click through the next couple here because I've already showed those online.
Yeah.
Let's stop on this one just for a second. If you're not familiar with the Washington Student Data Privacy Alliance, and there's also the Oregon one. So Jim Newton is the primary contact in the state of Oregon, and I believe Alan Miedema is the primary contact for the state of Washington. ACPE and with SIPC have really worked together to make sure that our states are being covered by this. In fact, I believe Jim Newton, Alan Miedema, and Sandy Maynard are going to be doing a session on the Student Privacy Alliance, so you might want to look that up if you've got an opening and go to that meeting. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. And we can go through that one. Again, one of the biggest pluses to this tool is we have now conditioned our teaching staff and our curriculum personnel to go out to Learn Platform and to look for things. I think it's probably a mantra I hear from Katie, one of my directors, quite regularly when she's in a meeting. We'll have you filled out the Learn Platform. Have you gone out and filled out the digital tool review? We can't give you a comment of yes or no until we've done that. And to me, that's an excellent sign of leadership in the department. Becky has done that with me. Mark, you didn't put that one through the digital tool review. And I'll come back and say, you're right, I need to do that. So it's very important for our process. Audra, the next slide. So here you can see denied reasons. We'll go ahead and we'll go through the next one. Here you see a conditional tool. It just means that a subset of people can use it. The next one. This is where we start to run into some of the things that I think are good for anybody to know. We believe that our librarians are a core component of our school district, and I think Becky, if I'm right, you actually attend some of those meetings with Haley and with Megan to talk about some of this stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They're a great resource for us on this work.
And we build in a lot of digital literacy, and you can see here we've actually linked into Utah's State Board of Education student data privacy because they had some good resources. But now you can see down at the bottom, there is a vendor here, KnowBe4, that is actually doing a session. And if you get an opportunity to go to that, we haven't bought into yet, but we're looking at this as a tool to use with our staff for additional training. Madra, you want to go to the next one, please? And we'll go to the next one. So data privacy is a lot about compliance and making sure that what we're doing is we're meeting the state and federal compliance purposes for a tool. So with this, we're able to provide our staff with a central location of where all of our tools are being vetted. It allows us to maintain and control that in a great way. It allows us to give them additional content. The content that you've seen on those little pop-up windows is derived by the team. The team comes up with that information, puts it in there, give additional feedback. And then they can send that information out to the recipient so that they know exactly why it was denied, approved, it's conditional, etc. And the workflows just make it easy for us to manage, and it allows us to manage all these applications better. So we do use a couple different tools in our system to control what happens with users. So we got a lot of iPads, we have a lot of Chromebook users, and we have Windows users. And so our firewall's basically the primary source where things are blocked, but then we also use GoGuardian to do a fair amount of blocking. Go ahead, click to the next one. We have tutorials and training opportunities. We use the DSA, which is now I go in blank. Becky, DSA.
I'm not sure, actually.
I can't think of the name that we have. District. It's an abbreviation for our.
Too many acronyms, right?
I know, we live in acronyms and craziness. But it is our agreement with not only the vendors, but with a lot of our staff. And when we get to researchers, where a researcher will come and ask for information, we have a DSA with them. And that DSA basically controls what they have access to, how they can have access to it, when we'll give them that information. Our PII notification for parents and staff, most of that is sent out in the beginning of the year. It's posted on the website underneath our communication department. And then we consider this the educator library, just like Kenwood does. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So you need to start with a vision. One of the things that we had was a digital review team already in place. We did not have a tool for managing that process. That was what we were missing. So we had the process in place. And then when we started to roll out learning platform, what it did was it gave us, in some ways, a license to make sure that we were doing it the right way, and then a platform to be able to deliver it in that way. And so we started educating our administrators. We sent out what we call admin packets. So every Friday we send out it's basically a SharePoint site where administrators and staff can gain access to real-time information that's coming from the district. And what we would do is we'd send out this admin packet, and then they would go ahead and they would review that. And we actually run that fairly frequently, so we're publicizing it quite often. And then we make sure the teaching and learning is also very clear about, hey, we have this comprehensive list of tools that we use. These are your digital tools. And if you want to venture outside of that, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have that product evaluated. If you don't have it evaluated, it's not going to make it into the approved list. And it still might not make it into the approved list. I think we probably evaluate in, I would say, at least a half of the products that go through the sequence. But the other half are either denied, conditional, or some other option. And then we build our relationships with all the departments so that we make sure that we're sharing that information. Go ahead and go to the next slide. And Madra, I'm going to let you go ahead and take over.
So you've made my job here extremely easy. So thank you for Becky and Mark for sharing all those examples. The one thing I wanted to add before I jump into evaluating EdTech is we agree, the student data privacy is of a top concern. One thing I did want to mention was in the product details of your library, there's that privacy tab where you can get terms of service and privacy agreements for specific products. We do pull in data from SDPC, so you can see Exhibit E's from other districts. And then we do share some common sense media information from that site. So we try to be a place to at least start some of that privacy vetting, information and content. So I am going to talk a little bit about evaluating EdTech. So I'd like to pose a question to the group, and you can type into the chat if you want to. You want to think about your districts and consider the different EdTech tools that are being used by teachers and students, those that you are aware of, and also those that you might not be aware of. How many tools do you think that U.S. school districts access every month? So you can feel free to type in to the chat. And we are seeing that a total of about 1,400 tools are accessed per month. That's starting in the spring of 2020. Pre-pandemic, it was around 952. So I'm sure that's a surprising number. I know it was a surprising number to me. And what's the implication of that large number? What we really want to ask ourselves, out of all those EdTech tools being used, which of those tools are actually impacting your student achievement? So on this slide, we've broken down the 3 different levels of research and analytics that districts can incorporate into their EdTech ecosystem. So the need for quality and timely data analytics to inform decisions related to EdTech has never been greater. I'd like to go back to that question earlier, which of these EdTech tools are impacting student outcomes, and what evidence of impact do we have? So Learn Platform collects usage analytics data, which is important, especially as districts work to identify some of the invisible EdTech tools being used by students and teachers. That is particularly helpful to districts that want to quickly take inventory of their digital tools being used, by whom, how much, and it's a great initial step towards EdTech effectiveness. But we all know usage analytics don't answer some of the key questions that are related to more evidence-based evaluation. So the next step would be fidelity and cost analytics. Are the tools being used? Some of the questions we answer. Are the tools being used as intended and to fidelity? What is the ideal dosage to recommend? Which EdTech tools are impacting student outcomes? And are all student groups seeing that same impact? And finally, what's the ROI of the tool in terms of effectiveness rather than just usage? So rapid cycle evaluation helps answer all these questions and supports continuous improvement to your district towards a more effective, evidence-based EdTech ecosystem. Ideally, we'd all like to be at this outcomes and analytics, but with that, it does take some time and data involved. So impact is Learn Platform's outcome analytics. It allows districts to determine whether tools are impacting student outcomes. These insights can help districts understand where professional development is successful and where additional professional development needs to happen. It can really help make decisions during renewal times, and impact can provide a line of sight into data across some of your usage groups. So identifying underutilized license is a great starting point for cost effectiveness. However, cost effectiveness in terms of how a tool is impacting student outcomes helps guide the next steps. For example, if a tool is impacting student outcomes in a positive way, a district may decide to provide additional professional development. Alternatively, if a tool is not positively impacting student outcomes or is only positively impacting a subset of students, a district may decide to right-size their licenses and invest in other resources that support the remaining group of students. So both fidelity and outcome analytics can help districts identify inconsistencies in access and adoption across some student groups. Understanding where gaps may exist and which products are working for which students empowers districts to make targeted recommendations and purchasing decisions. This is definitely a key step in building an effective, continuously improving EdTech ecosystem that represents all students, not just some. And then finally, considering effectiveness by prior achievement, lower performing versus higher performing student quintiles can help districts determine whether an EdTech tool should be targeted to students who fall into a particular achievement quintile, or determine what additional PD is needed for teachers to use the tool effectively. In this example, the tool appears effective across all quintiles, but is particularly effective in the lowest performing students. So really, the rapid cycle evaluation can give you a deeper dive into who is seeing the most gain from the usage of this product, and is intended to help you make adjustments on the fly, not to wait till the end of the year to look at test scores to see maybe what could be changed, but really to be able to adjust and see improvement mid-year as well. Due to some privacy, I can't pull up like an example of one of these reports, and so that's why you're seeing some of these screenshots here. We're really proud of how it differentiates and gets to the level of research to really show that impact of student achievement. And I think that is our last slide. Not bad for, oh, you're on mute, Mark.
Sorry about that. We do have a question in the Q&A, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read that one. It says, can you describe what the initial effort was like to launch the portal? By effort, I mean both the people and the platform. So let me kind of give you a little brief into it. And I know that Becky is here and she can talk a little bit from the IT side. If need be, we can share some additional things offline later with you. But, you know, not to take anything away from Learn Platform, but there are multiple tools that do actually do this. And looking for the right tool to work is really where we start. There was an opportunity to go down the path of a couple different vendors earlier on, and we didn't do that. And we landed on Learn Platform at first, and we actually had created a process that was done manually. And the individual who was doing it was part of the digital review team, and it was a lot of work on her part to go ahead and set things up, and she was going through and she's manually making all these changes. And quite honestly, manual is not the way to go anymore. We have to be automated. They have to be in a way that we can quickly adapt and get to different things. So the team sat together and we talked about different things. I will say that there have been the ups and the downs of how we've had to deploy some things because there's been some changes that come in, and obviously when a change comes in, that impacts the way that you use a tool, because you may have thought about using that process differently, and then a change comes and that impacts the configuration. Or we used to use a line item for something, but it's communication. that's what it comes down to, about communicating out to the principals and to senior leadership. There are actually 2 cabinet members who sit on the digital tool team. That is myself and our communications officer. And then there's an executive director of teaching and learning who is also on that team. And then there are the people who actually do 99% of the work, Becky being one of them, and Haley and Megan and a bunch of the communications people. And the reason that they're the people who see the back end. They're the individuals who are looking at from the curriculum side. They're looking at the contracts. And then what will happen is it goes back up through the process. Becky will send me the Exhibit E's or a Washington Student Data Agreement that hasn't been signed yet. I'll review to look at it, knowing that she's already gone through and done a fair amount of vetting inside there. And if I see something that is missing or critical, I'll ping her and we have a conversation, and then we take it a little bit further. But the process is the process. We've defined that now. Our staff are beginning to know that, and they know how to work down that narrow path.
Yeah.
Becky, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think what you described is correct. I will say, though, like we mentioned in the slide earlier, the one thing we didn't utilize was using champions within the buildings to help promote this. That's something, looking back, we wish we had, which in our situation, librarians were key to that. And then, honestly, the second year we ran the committee, we decided to go ahead and start really locking down and blocking tools. And once tools were blocked, it kind of woke everybody up to the process. And that was a tough month, I do have to say, because people were confused and frustrated. I mean, we gave them ample warning that this was going to be happening that school year. But it wasn't until we started blocking that we really saw more traffic on Learn Platform, and teachers really started to think more intentionally about the tools using in their classroom, and partnering with us more. So I think that was a big key piece in promoting this. Yeah.
Okay, we have a series of questions from Jim Newton. Hi, Jim. So first one is this where we started with our governance setup as well, and looking at other districts in addition to the tools? You know, I attended a lot of sessions, conferences. There's one called RTM, and I spent a lot of time with Diane Dorsch from Green Bay. She's no longer there, but her staff, we talked about this. We actually went through some sessions. That was probably 4 or 5 years ago, where we were looking at how to do this, and just getting an idea of how they were doing it versus how we were doing it, and building that governance model that you talked about there, Jim. And Katie and her team sit on multiple committees within the district, or sit in meetings. And Katie actually is the director underneath me, and she goes to the meetings with our legal team and with our family engagement team, where they're looking at contracts and they're looking at the communication that goes on with the CBAs, CBOs. Those are community-based organizations or associations, and really diving into, well, no, you don't just get access to that information. You get certain information, and that may include something that's related to what we do with Learn Platform. And she's building other components out of there. And then Jim, you said, or do you write your own playbook when setting up governance, such as involving T&L, communications, admin, software, the digital review criteria, equity criteria, etc.? We have a model, and Becky and Haley follow that model, and it is our playbook, if you want to call it that. We know what we're looking at, It was developed in-house. It was augmented by talking with others who have shared feedback. We've talked to Tacoma. We've actually presented with Kennewick before, and we've been on sessions with Learn Platform where we've talked to a lot of their other clients about what they do, and it's a learning experience. And Jim, the tool is adaptable. It is pliable in many ways to meet what we're looking for. There are areas where we would love it to be more adaptable, but we use tools in a certain way to make sure that we're collecting information. Looks like we've got Stephen McCandless. You have a committee and did it all manually, but you like the portal and would complement the system. It does. We manually did it. And, I think Megan probably gained back 10 hours a week in terms of not having to do all her data entry. And probably Becky too, a little bit, because they were doing it all a different way. I don't know if we have everything in a PDF format that we could actually present, but I'll talk with Becky offline and see if there's some stuff that we could actually share that might be related to our process, our model of how we have things, how our digital tool committee works. See if we can't do that.
Yeah, and I put the link to our Staff Hub page, which really does have a lot. So check that out.
Right. And there's one more question for you, Madra.
Yeah, I saw that.
Platform. All right.
Yeah, so the data that's involved in our rapid cycle evaluation is usage data of whatever tool you are looking to evaluate, demographic information, and then benchmarking information. And so that's where those quintiles and level of success and achievement come from.
Very good. Becky, I thank you for letting me throw you underneath.
Becky, you're amazing for jumping in here on the fly.
But I do want to say, if you don't have good quality people who understand the processes, Becky is very good at asking questions. Being the project manager, what her real knack is asking people a question. She needs to find out what the underlying issues are, concerns are, rewards are, and people get irritated by that because they don't want to give an answer. They want to just continue business as usual. And by having Becky and Katie now really forcing people to think about this, what we've now done is we've forced our district to really think about this as well. What is the true result of having that application working with our students? Are we truly gaining an achievement level, a score increase? Are our students actually participating better? And that comes back down to that TCO, total cost of ownership for an application. And we use a couple different tools to actually get to some of our TCO. And I think it depends on which product or which operation that we're going to try as to where we get our data. But the data that comes to us is really designed to be utilization data. And there are other data tracks too. Like we use ClassLink, and ClassLink will give us a lot of utilization data as well. But ClassLink and Learn Platform do work fairly well together. And a lot of districts use the single sign-on of ClassLink for their integration to drop them right into the Learn Platform model, like Marlo Gaddis in North Carolina, or South Carolina. And she has 83 some thousand kids, and they're using that very well over there. Becky, you have any parting words of wisdom for this team of people? I think we still have 54 people online who might learn from what you have experienced going through this.
I think I kind of outlined most of it. I can't think of any other component to add other than, just take advantage of those partnerships, of those individuals who do have that data knowledge, utilize them. And then, work with teaching and learning, because this goes hand in hand with digital citizenship, right? So it's a no-brainer that once teachers and staff start understanding it, it really has a huge impact.
I'd like to thank you guys for letting me participate in this. I always learn from your examples and processes, so thank you. You're on mute.
Sorry, Mark, I think you're on mute. We missed that last bit.
I am on mute. I'm saying ACPE is a great place for us to have these peer relationships and conversations. It isn't just meeting right now. Like Madra's going to be available, that you can talk with her at the booth, be able to get some feedback. If you want, you can reach out to Becky, Katie Luckton, me. You can ask us for additional feedback, and we can set up our own little opportunity to talk. We can create a think tank. We can have places where we can get together and we can go over this, and we can share, some of those woes as well as some of the woohoo, we got it done. I like the woohoos better than the oh my. But we've had both. All right. So I thank you, and I'm gonna actually give you back 15 minutes of time here so that you can grab something to drink and maybe visit a vendor in the booth, and then jump back online again. So thank you all. Thank you, Becky. Thank you, Madra. Thank you to my team and to Kennewick team. I appreciate everything that you do. And hopefully everything's going well for everybody at ACPE. I've had my technical issues, I know. So we'll get going. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.